if you learn in Spanish, you probably find grammar quite complicated, at least compared to English, especially the conjugations. They don't exist for the most part in English, and Spanish has endless conjugations, lots of tenses, and there's a lot there to learn. And if you try to learn all of that the traditional way with grammar books and all those terms, all those fancy terms, pretérito pluscuamperfecto, simple, blah 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 blah, it's just a lot of weird words, and it's going to take forever to learn it, and you're going to struggle a lot with it, and probably will never really master it. So what I suggest instead is that you learn all that grammar, you learn to recognize it first, and then to use it in context with mass sentences. This is the latest list I've created for Spanish, and it's much more comprehensive than the ones before. It's a lot more. Everything's included except every conjugation, every tense, except some really ancient ones like hubieres, like those. Like, it's very not Shakespearean, but the equivalent in Spanish, like the 1500s and stuff. You don't need that. But everything else, not only the stuff you'll use in conversation, but also things that people don't normally use in conversation. But you'll see if you're reading, you'll encounter those terms those structures if you are reading novels, for example. Those are included, but not the really ancient stuff, which you probably don't need. And if you're interested in that, you probably already speak good Spanish anyway. So what we've got is a long list of thousands of sentences organized in groups for each case, or whatever you want to call them, conjugation. And yeah, you basically read it over and over again. I recommend you memorize the vocabulary before with mnemonics, and then you read it, you understand it, you keep reading it. You have to review the list over and over again. Shadow it as well. The audio files are not ready yet, but will be soon, and they'll be available. So you can simply listen to it and shadow. So you listen to the audio file while reading, and you repeat it aloud alongside with it. That's a good way to learn to understand and also to say all these things. But it's mostly reading it and listening to it over and over again. Just take the audio files, listen to it again and again and again, repeat them aloud. And if you really want to make sure that you use them correctly when you're speaking, then you can download this as a CSV file, import it to Anki, create flashcards, and do retrieval practice, translating from English into Spanish. But again, I don't necessarily recommend doing that unless you are relatively fluent already. If you do a lot of shadowing with these kind of sentences, your speaking will be pretty accurate already, because you've been repeating sentences that are grammatically correct over and over again. But if you really want to make sure, you can already speak, and you want to make sure that last 10%, 5% that you still haven't mastered, that you want to make sure that your sentences are perfect, there's no mistakes there, then use this, the retrieval practice. But for most of you, simply listening to it and reviewing it and then shadowing it over and over will be enough. This, combined with your language islands and the rest of the lists, mass sentence lists for vocabulary and other types of grammar, will be enough to make you speak very well. All right, so let's get going with Spanish.